This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
PMK playing it safe. Dr. Ayya says a separate alliance was a wish of the state Congress leaders and not his alone. Meanwhile, Ramadas hits out at the DMK for targeting his party worker. In a big relief to parents and students, Justice Govindarajan says that the revised fee structure will stay this year. Be ready to be gunned down by the traffic police if you speed beyond 40 kilometers per hour on the roads of Chennai. Policemen injured during a raid at an illegal cracker unit in Virudhunagar. And the men in blue knocked out of the first match. New Zealand take them all out. Good evening to you. I'm Radhika Iyer. This is News Tonight. There is some respite for a parent and a student in Chennai, but not so much respite if you are taking a two-wheeler or a car to office and back from office in Chennai, because lots of that coming up. If you are a cricket fan, then there's not so much of good news as well. But before we go into details of all the local stories, here's a look at the national headlines. An emotional Prime Minister appeals to all parties to join in dialogue for a peaceful Jammu and Kashmir. The Sports Minister says he will answer specifically only to an RTI, not the Parliament. The opposition also attacks the centre over Mamata Banerjee's rally in Maoist-infested Lalgarh. Maharashtra strives to clean up the mess from the oil spill while the government sets a 10-day deadline. The Infosys chief says he has no problem if the successor is from outside the family.
It will be easy for an outside person to become the chairman of the company.
If you've been a confused parent just wondering how you would have to shell out and how much of it for your school children's fees, there's finally some clarity. The revised fees that's right now, the cap on how much schools can charge students, will stay for this year. The Justice Govindarajan Committee will consider the objections filed by close to 6,000 schools only next academic year. Our education reporter Minal Shah tracks the possible aftershocks of this jolt to private schools in Tamil Nadu.
Throwing their hands up after their objections to the fee revision has been put on the back burner. School principals in Tamil Nadu say it's the quality of education that will be diluted in the months ahead. Cutting corners to manage a shoestring budget, as stipulated by the Justice Govindarajan Committee, will be inevitable, and students, they warn, will be the victims.
Certainly we will not be able to manage running the school. In case we have to really comply with that fees fixed by the committee, then options are two. One is we have to cut down the strength of both the teaching and supporting staff. Number two, strength of the students in each class also to be increased from 40 to 60. Definitely it will affect the quality of education.
The only saving grace for schools is that the committee has cut short the implementation of the revised fee structure from 3 years to 1.
கட்டணத்தை மறு நிர்ணயம் செய்யக்கோரி 6400 மனுக்கள் வந்திருப்பதையும் அதே நேரத்தில் மாணவர்கள் ஆசிரியர்கள் பெற்றோர்கள் பாதிக்கப்பட்டு விடக்கூடாது என்பதை கருத்தில் கொண்டு இக்குழுவானது மேற்காணும் பள்ளிகளின் நேரில் ஆய்வு செய்து பள்ளிகளை தர நிர்ணயம் செய்து அதன் அடிப்படையில் கட்டணத்தை நிர்ணயம் செய்வதை பற்றி முடிவெடுக்க கால அவகாசம் தேவைப்படுவதால் இவ்வாறு நிர்ணயம் செய்து முடிவெடுக்கப்படும் புதிய கட்டணத்தை 2011-12 கல்வியாண்டில் நடைமுறைப்படுத்தலாம் எனவும் இக்குழு முடிவெடுக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது.
The Justice Govindarajan Committee's decision has brought a short relief to parents. But now the schools are under pressure of providing quality education without compromising it. So only time will tell if the standard of education does come down or not. In Chennai, Minal Shah, NDTV Hindu.
Alright, that's exactly the irony there. Parents spend that extra buck to send their children to private schools, believing that the quality of education will be better there. And that's the irony now. Now that this order has come, will that take a beating on the quality of education? Will there be a compromise? To discuss that in detail and to bring about clarity on whether that money will be refunded to parents, joining us live in our studio, Dr. N. Vijayan, General Secretary, Federation of Matriculation Schools Associations, and Mr. Prince Gajendra Babu, a popular and well-known educationist. Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, for joining us on this show tonight. First to you, Mr. Vijayan, what next in this battle that you're trying to ensure you charge as much as you want to? What next for now? Is it a defeat for now?
Now, I don't know, now it's really a shock, and both options have been closed because the options given by the judgment of the Honorable High Court Madras is, see, you can approach the committee second time, and in case you are not happy, you can approach the court. Now, in the options are both, and unilaterally asking us to follow what is fixed is really unfair, and it will be difficult for us to run the school.
All right, we're also joined by Mr. Prince Gajendra Babu, who's a well-known educationist, like I've been saying, and you've been on the forefront trying to fight for the regulation of school fees. Before I get to know from you, sir, on what kind of an impact this announcement will have, to you, Mr. Vijayan, the question that's there on every parent's mind right now, you have collected excess fees this year. Will you now refund this extra fee collected by you after today's order?
Returning the question is not there, because based on the fees that we collected, we have made payment for the teachers, we have provided an increment to the teachers, we have done a lot of other developmental activities for which we have made use of this fund, and therefore returning may not be possible. That too, close to 5 to 10% of the schools in Tamil Nadu only must have probably charged it. Other schools, only first term fees they collected it.
Right, which means first term is collected. So for the next term, will you be collecting only what Justice Govindarajan has asked you to?
I don't think with a revised fee structure the school will be able to manage running the schools. They will be able to run make the payment for the staff only for 7 months for the whole year. So therefore, it will be rather difficult for the school to run the school in case we have to implement the committee's fee structure.
Well, that of course is something that you've always been maintaining, that it will be difficult for you to run. So now that perhaps for the next term you might just have to go by the rule, what exactly will you cut down on this menu that you sort of create for students who come to private education? What will you cut down on, Mr. Vijayan?
Other facilities, developmental activities like audio-visual room, e-learning facilities, smart class programs, like other infrastructure and co-curricular, extracurricular activities which are really backbone for private schools, which will really stand them, number one, are like NCC. Private schools, we don't get any fund like government schools from government. The school has to really pay the entire expenditure for having NCC unit, which former President of India said every school needs to have an NCC. Why to go for fund? NSS and the Scouts and Guides, JRC, science clubs, literary associations, various activities are there which will definitely ensure children really develop their personality. But all this will come to a grinding halt in case we have to follow the fee structure.
Okay, that's exactly the irony. I'm not sure how much you'll have to spend for NCC and NSS, though, Mr. Gajendra Babu. The fact that parents actually spend those extra bucks because they think and believe that private schools actually provide better education, and now that seems to be the compromise that schools will make.
The schools cannot cut down any of their activities because the recognition is given based on the assurance given by a charitable trust that it has got fund and it is sound enough to run a school.
Right.
Once it has stated that it has got sound enough to run a school, the collection of fee has nothing to do with the expenses that the trust has to meet to maintain a school. And moreover, the co-curricular, extracurricular activities are part of the school education and they are funded by the central government and the state government. If there is any deficiency in that funding, they have to fight it with the government, and they cannot say that, and no school can say that we are going to cut down anything.
Right. In fact, a couple of, let me take a few seconds to explain what we've just learned from Mr. Vijayan and from many teachers and principals of private schools who we've been speaking to try and get a reaction. They don't say it on record, but what we know is that for now in private schools there is a ratio, student to teacher ratio of 1:60. And that it seems will come down to 1:40, and that it seems will go up by 1:60 because they plan to cut down on the number of teachers, because salary seems to be their claim of the biggest expenditure in private schools. To you, Mr. Vijayan, like of course Mr. Prince was saying, every school has given relevant documents based on which the committee has decided a fee. Now you're saying that that's not fair. So was it miscalculation by you or by the committee itself?
No, that's not right. Actually, the questionnaires, we have really given the answers for the questionnaires. None of the schools in the state knows that this is going to be the fees structure for 3 years. None knows in the state. That's the reason we have really raised objections.
All right. Do you see clarity, sir, on the fact that the recommendations will now move to next year? Do you think this is sort of a lull before a storm, or is it even fair for the committee per se to say that instead of as against the required 30 days, they've now postponed indefinitely or taking sitting on it and taking their own time to sort of look after the recommendations?
Justice Govindarajan committee is constituted based on an act,
yes.
And the act clearly states that if a fee fixed by the committee is not acceptable to any private school, they can appeal within 15 days. Yes. From the date of appeal, the committee has to come out with a final report within 30 days. And the committee now states that it is going to postpone it for the next year, and the act does not permit. On what basis Justice Govindarajan had said this is a big question that we are not able to guess anything.
Yes, that's the answer. In fact, everyone is curious to know about. But very briefly, sir, if you were to explain in 2 sentences, what sort of a spin-off effect this announcement today is going to have on the kind of education?
The private schools has to come out clearly whether they are going to be profiteering or going to be charitable. If it is a charitable, they will continue. If they are profiteering, they have to close down.
All right, very strong words indeed. In fact, adding on to that, Mr. Vijayan, if I may ask you one last question. Parents complain that the revised fee structure is not there on the notice boards in schools. No receipts are being given to parents after they pay the fees. And in fact, the fee collecting staff seems understandably arrogant in turning parents away on asking why they're not being given receipts. Your reactions to that, sir?
I disagree with this. I don't think, because I know the schools, it's a place, it's a temple of learning where every teacher is regarded as a guru, and the place like this, I don't think any school must have mentioned like this. Maybe this is the hand of antisocial elements, I'm sure, because teaching is the noblest of the service that what is available under universe. Therefore, the school must have not said it. Secondly, giving the receipt, again, 5 to 10% of the schools I was told they have collected the fees, but until we get the decision, they cannot give in black and white. That's what the news I got it from few schools. But then, with the fees recommended, we will not be able to run the school. That's the reason, all about it. And we will not shun the children. We will definitely ensure that children are given quality education. We will not withdraw from the scene in executing our responsibility, please.
All right, Mr. Prince, you were laughing at that. You thought it was quite a joke?
Yeah, surely. Because they very well know that the committee's fee structure was not displayed in any of the notice boards. So the schools did not tell to the parents what is the actual fee. The chief educational officers and the inspector of matriculation school must have sent a circular to the school stating that you should prominently display this in the board, and we will inspect whether we have displayed it. All these things have not happened. If everything happens like this, it will be a good thing for the parents.
Right, of course. But of course, for now, let's all agree that this is some sort of a respite. Thank you very much, Mr. Vijayan. You represent the fraternity of private schools and that management, and you've aired your views. So thanks very much for that clarity you gave. And thanks, Mr. Prince Gajendra Babu, for joining us with that insight. Moving on. No more racing on the streets of Chennai. No, not even allowed to exceed the speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour. That's the traffic police's diktat to motorists in Chennai. And if you defy the law, you're not going to be let off with just a fine or a warning. The Chennai police says that anyone who violates the speed limit more than once will have their license stripped off. Salim has this report.
In Chennai city, we have prescribed the speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour for two-wheelers. If they go beyond that, we will take action against them.
This warning from the city police comes after the arrest of 18 youngsters who indulged in drag racing along the Marina Elliott stretch. 18 vehicles were confiscated and the men who possessed these mean machines lodged in Puril prison. With immediate effect, the traffic cops say they will cancel the license of motorists who exceed the speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour during day and 50 kilometers per hour during night.
This is a big offense. They create not only chaos on the road, they cause accident, and the public is quite disturbed. So we are going to be very ruthless with them.
For this purpose, the city traffic police have placed an order for radar guns, which will detect the speed of vehicles. These radar guns can be handheld, vehicle-mounted or static. The present speed limit for different vehicles within the city limits are as follows. During day, two-wheelers and cars cannot speed over 40 km per hour, and autos are restricted to 25 km per hour. During night, autos can ply up to 30 km per hour, whereas two-wheelers and cars are restricted to a speed of 50 km per hour. At present, the power to terminate licenses lies with the RTOs. However, the city traffic police have written to the state government seeking powers to cancel licenses on their own. In Chennai, with Salim, Evelyn Matthew for NDTV Hindu.
Okay, high-tech machines like Mr. M. Ravi, the ACP traffic was mentioning, was of course trying to convey that safety comes first, but it seems that this will seem not so practical because commuters we've been speaking to have not been given very positive reactions to a new rule like this. Moving on, in the top political story today, PMK's chief, Dr. Ramadas, has now said he was only reiterating what some senior Congress leaders have been wishing for when he said he wanted a separate alliance. This is after hinting at floating a new alliance just 3 days ago. PMK held its governing council meeting this morning, and the council gave Ramadas all the powers to decide on the alliance, not surprisingly, for the forthcoming assembly elections. Dr. Raya said that he only sounded out the opinion of some senior Congress leaders when he spoke of the Congress-led alliance in the state for the next assembly elections. We'll take a little break now. A weak defense by the main opposition, who's angry because MS Gill, the sports minister, says he will answer only to the RTI, not to the parliament. And Narayan Murthy's hint on who will be his successor in his software kingdom. All that after this little short break.